Mas mabuti ngayon palang umaming ka na.
May ginawa ako sa kotse para pumalya.
Pero sino naman ang nag-utos sa'yo na gawin yon? Nakakatulog ka na mahimbing? Kung gano'n, ito na ang pagkakataon para makagawa ka ng tama.
Sa pag-amin ng may kagagawan, lalabas na ba ang katotohanan?
Ano yun, Teofilo?
Bagong impormasyon ito sa aksidente ni Cesar.
Totoo?
Alam mo ba
Mr.
na si...
Teofilo, gusto talaga kitang makausap. Elsa, akyat ka raw kay Papa.
Mamayang gabi? Pero anong...
Elsa, napag-usapan na natin ito noon. Priority mo ba ang kumpanya o hindi? Ito ang invitation. Ito ang babasahin mo.
Kailangan kong hanapin ang sasakyan na ginamit ni Cesar.
Matutukoy na ba ang may kinalaman?
Tapos ka, Aníbal. Wala ka na ngayong ligtas.
Ni Esperanza.
Talo tayo pag together, wala talo pag together, let's stand together. Sa Net 25.
Nasa ka ba? Magpakita ka nga!
Hindi ako magpapakita sa'yo.
Wag!
Ako, si Contraman!
Tama kayo! Maghaharap nga si Captain Kutob at Contraman! At maghaharap din sa Do or Die Championship ang Team Cosme at Team Puruntong. Ngayong araw na yan, alas 8 ng gabi sa Net 25.
Okay!
Ito ang Net 25 Primetime News. Matatag. Matapang. Matapat kasama sina Alex Santos, Emma Tiglao at Vic De Leon Lima. Mata ng Agila. Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 6 ng gabi sa Net 25.
Pilipinas at saan mang panig ng mundo, ihanda na ang shopping list nyo dahil narito na ang online shopping show kung saan ang hanap nyo, meron dito. Narito na ang Shopping All the Way with Jojo A. Eat na hit? We have it! May sayawan, tawanan, pati naiyakan. Pati pets nyo mag-i-enjoy dito. But wait, there's more. Dahil pati celebrity sellers, makikipag-online selling din. At hindi lang yan, dahil may chance kayong makabili ng collectible items mula sa inyong mga paboritong artista. Kaya what are you waiting for? Add to cart na! Shopping all the way with Jojo A. Opening soon sa Net 25. Kids, join Miffy on her adventures this July.
Miffy, a sweet little bunny. Miffy, a smart little bunny. Miffy, a cute little bunny.
Miffy helps her friends with her handy umbrella and builds a sandcastle at the beach with Melanie. She then looks after Dan's crocodile for a day. Finds a book she's been looking for at the library. And flies a new kite Boris made specially for her.
Miffy, it always feels sunny. With Miffy!
Sundays at 10 a.m. dito lang sa Net 25.
Panalo tayo pag together, wala talo pag together, let's stand together. Sa Net 25.
Ang show na siksik sa tawanan.
Anong una natin gagawin?
Ang show na laging may baong pampagood vibes.
Alas 9:12. Kasi alam mo naman, pag tatlong mga marites.
Kalagkarin. Kalagkarin. Ang palakpakan. Ang kulang sa likod ng ASPN. Ang show kung saan mahalaga ang bawat opinion nyo sa mga maiinit na issue ng bayan.
O, ayan, i-compute mo na kung magkano sa halagang 50. Hindi, joke lang.
May tawad ako? 30 na? Ha?
Tawad na yun.
Mga isyu ang kasagutan ay sa programa natin unang napanood at napakinggan.
Kaya naman gawing morning habit ng panonood ng ASPN. Ano sa palagay nyo?
Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 10 ng umaga, mapapanood nyo ang ASPN sa Net 25.
Tayo pag together, walang talo pag together. Let's stand together sa Net 25.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 more bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I am Faye Barta from your EBC Thailand Bureau.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Sheila Pablo, bringing you the latest news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
And on today's headlines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. was sworn in a Philippine president on a Thursday. Indonesian President Joko Widodo said in Moscow on Thursday he delivered a message from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to Russian leader Vladimir Putin. And the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or PCCI, the country's largest business organization, is urging the new administration to continue policies and measures of the Anti-Red Tape Authority. And the warmth of the long-standing relationship between the Philippines and Japan has once again been highlighted in the Department of Education's, or DepEd, third PH Japan Friendship Art Contest, where Japanese philanthropist Kenji Mori was himself in tears of delight. And first in our news, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. was sworn in as Philippine president on a Thursday. Marcos Jr., the son and namesake of the country's late president, took his oath in front of hundreds of local and foreign dignitaries, as well as journalists and supporters at the National Museum in Manila. Let's take a look.
Si Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr.
Si Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr.
ay mataimtim na nanunumpa.
Ay taimtim na nanunumpa.
Natutuparin ko ng buong katapatan at sigasig.
Natutuparin ko ng buong katapatan at sigasig.
Ang aking mga tungkulin.
Ang aking mga tungkulin.
Bilang Pangulo ng Pilipinas.
Bilang Pangulo ng Pilipinas.
Pangangalagaan at ipagtatanggol
ang
kanyang konstitusyon.
Ang kanyang konstitusyon.
Ipatutupad ang mga batas nito.
Ipapatupad ang mga batas nito.
Magiging makatarungan sa bawat tao.
Magiging makatarungan sa bawat tao.
At itatalaga ang aking sarili.
At itatalaga ang aking sarili.
Sa paglilingkod sa bansa.
Sa paglilingkod sa bansa.
Kasihanawa ako ng Diyos.
Kasihanawa ako ng Diyos.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Maraming salamat.
Before swearing in, President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. was welcomed to the Malacanang Palace, the Philippines' seat of power, by no less than outgoing President Rodrigo Duterte on a Thursday morning, June 30, 2022. Marcos Jr. stepped into Malacanang as the incoming president of the country at around 10:30 a.m., just before his inauguration as the 17th president of the Philippines. President Marcos, 64 years old, was visibly surprised that the outgoing President Duterte was waiting for him at the foot of the stairs inside Malacanang. He shook the hand of the 77-year-old Duterte, the father of his running mate and now Vice President Sara Duterte. They then proceeded inside the palace halls where he signed the Malacanang guest book with the elder Duterte at the background before proceeding to talk for a few minutes. They then went outside the palace grounds where the outgoing President Duterte was given departure honors. And Duterte walked together with Marcos Jr. as soldiers saluted them.
Meanwhile, President Ferdinand Romualdez Bongbong Marcos Jr. took his oath on Thursday, June 30, as the 17th president of the country, promising to deliver on his promises of a better Philippines amid the uncertainty of a continuing conflict in Ukraine and the throes of the still unfinished COVID-19 pandemic. In his speech that ran for about half an hour in front of the historic Philippine National Museum, Marcos talked of his faith in the Filipino spirit and Philippine unity to achieve the dream of making the country a land of plenty. Let's listen it.
This is a historic moment for us all. I feel it deep within me. You, the people, have spoken, and it is resounding. When my call for unity started to resonate with you, it did so because it echoed your yearnings, mirrored your sentiments, and expressed your hopes for family, for country, and for a better future. That is why it reverberated and amplified as it did, to deliver the biggest electoral mandate in the history of Philippine democracy. By your vote, you rejected the politics of division. I offended none of my rivals in this campaign. I listened instead to what they were saying, and I saw little incompatibility with my own ideas about jobs, fair wages, personal safety, and national strength, and ending want in a land of plenty. I believe that if we but focus on the work at hand and the work that will come to hand, we will go very far under my watch. You believe that too. At pinakinggan ko ang tinig ninyo na ang sinisigaw ay pagkakaisa, pagkakaisa, pagkakaisa. We will go farther together than against each other, pushing forward, not pulling each other back, out of fear, out of a misplaced sense of weakness. But we are the furthest from weak. The Filipino diaspora flourishes even in the most inhospitable climes, where they are valued for their quality. The changes we seek will benefit all and will shortchange no one. I once knew a man who saw what little had been achieved since independence in a land of people with the greatest potential for achievement, and yet they were poor. But he got it done, sometimes with the needed support, sometimes without. So will it be with his son. You will get no excuses from me. I am here not to talk about the past. I am here to tell you about our future. A future of sufficiency, even plenty, of readily available ways and means to get done what needs doing.
Before he took his oath, various representatives of churches and religious groups in the country prayed for the success of the new administration. Marcos said he is reaching out to all sectors, extending his hand to all Filipinos.
And President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. on Thursday renewed his commitment. He renewed his commitment to further bolster the Philippines' relations with its allied countries. Marcos made the vow when he hosted a traditional vin de honor with diplomats at the National Museum of the Philippines. The place where his inauguration as the country's 17th president also took place. Let's take a look.
Furthermore, I thank you for the very kind wishes of congratulations from your countries, from your governments, from your heads of state, and for the continuing offer that you have made to the Philippines for support and partnership in the future. As I think it has become very clear, and I think I may be repeating myself to some of you since we have spoken before, but I still believe that the transformation of the world economy and our recovery from the pandemic will be dependent on our partners and our allies. And it will be those partnerships that will strengthen that recovery, that will make a more balanced and stable new global environment for us to work in. I was especially struck by the importance that all of your countries have come to put on climate change. I believe that it was unanimous. All the ambassadors, all the representatives from the different countries who I have met with have each made offers of help in terms of mitigation and adaptation to climate change.
According to the official Gazette, the term vin de honor comes from the French practice, which means wine of honor. It traditionally takes place at the end of inaugurations, speeches, and ceremonies that marks the social life of the French provinces. And in the Philippines, the occasion is considered as a diplomatic event.
Newly installed President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. returned to Malacanang Palace on Thursday afternoon to swear in appointees to his cabinet. After hosting a traditional vin de honor with diplomats at the National Museum, Marcos received arrival honors at the Malacanang and later swore in appointees to his cabinet. Marcos described the mass oath-taking of new cabinet secretaries as the first official act of his administration. To date, Marcos has named at least 24 appointees to executive departments and other cabinet-level agencies, most of whom will later go through the Commission on Appointments in Congress for confirmation. Some of his appointees were also members of Duterte's cabinet. Marcos has designated himself as Department of Agriculture Secretary for now. He has yet to pick secretaries to head the Departments of Health, Foreign Affairs, and Energy. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles earlier said more appointments will be named in the following days. Marcos also swore in officials of Ilocos Norte and Ilocos Sur, including his eldest son, Ilocos 1st District Representative Ferdinand Alexander or Sandro Marcos.
And Indonesian President Joko Widodo said in Moscow on Thursday he delivered a message from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to Russian leader Vladimir Putin. And Vladimir Putin hosted Widodo more than 4 months into Moscow's offensive in Ukraine as Russia seeks to pivot toward Asia and Africa following the onset of unprecedented Western sanctions. Let's take a look.
Saya telah menyampaikan pesan Presiden Zelensky untuk Presiden Putin dan saya sampaikan kesiapan saya untuk menjadi jembatan komunikasi antara kedua pemimpin tersebut. Saat ini masih sangat sulit, namun saya tetap menyampaikan bahwa penyelesaian damai penting untuk terus dikedepankan dan juga ruang-ruang dialog terus bisa dibuka. Saya mengajak seluruh pemimpin dunia untuk bekerja sama kembali menghidupkan semangat multilateralisme, semangat damai dan semangat kerjasama. Hanya dengan spirit itulah perdamaian dapat dicapai.
В заключение хочу еще раз поблагодарить господина президента за продуктивные переговоры. Убежден, достигнутые сегодня договоренности будут способствовать дальнейшему укреплению российско-индонезийского многопланового партнерства. Уважаемый господин президент, дамы и господа.
He did not provide further details, and neither side said what was in the note. And Joko Widodo was in Kiev on Wednesday before heading to Moscow to meet Vladimir Putin, who on February 24 sent troops into pro-Western Ukraine. And he also said that his country would like the war to end soon. Jakarta has come under Western pressure to exclude Putin from the G20 gathering after announcing in April he had been invited. And Ukraine's Zelensky told Widodo on Wednesday that he will attend the upcoming G20 summit in Bali, depending on who else is attending. Putin on Thursday praised his talks with Widodo as productive.
President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky says during a meeting with his Indonesian counterpart Joko Widodo in Kiev that Ukraine will join the G20 summit depending on security situation in the country. Let's watch this.
Я вдячний вам, пане президенте, за запрошення, особисте запрошення взяти участь у саміті групи 20. І, звичайно, я приймаю це запрошення. Участь України буде залежати від безпекової ситуації в Україні і від складу учасників саміту.
Walaupun masih sangat sulit dicapai, saya tetap sampaikan pentingnya penyelesaian damai dan spirit perdamaian tidak boleh pernah luntur. Dalam kaitan ini saya menawarkan diri untuk membawa pesan dari Presiden Zelensky untuk Presiden Putin yang akan saya temui segera.
Indonesia, like most major emerging economies, has tried to maintain a neutral position and has called for a peaceful resolution to Russia's months-long offensive in Ukraine. Indonesia holds the rotating presidency of the G20 this year, and Jakarta has come under Western pressure to exclude Russia's president from the gathering after announcing in April he had been invited. President Joko Widodo and First Lady Iriana began their visit to Ukraine on Wednesday by visiting the war-damaged Lipki apartment in Irpin City, west of Ukraine's capital, Kiev. Mayor of Irpin, Alexander Grigorovich Markoshin, accompanied them on their visit to the apartment complex.
And the other news, Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong kicks off her visit to Vietnam by meeting her Vietnamese counterpart Bui Tan Son in Hanoi on Monday. And the visit is aimed at deepening bilateral ties between both countries, with discussions expected to focus on climate change cooperation, trade and investment relations, and Australia's support for Vietnam's COVID recovery. And Foreign Ministry Penny Wong has signaled a strengthening of security ties with Vietnam just days after Hanoi condemned a Chinese military exercise in the South China Sea as a serious breach of its sovereignty. And addressing an audience at the Ho Chi Minh National Academy of Politics, she said It was the new Australian government's ambition to expand strategic defense and security cooperation with Vietnam, as well to further economic engagement and innovation links. One of the multiple claimant states to territory in the strategically key waterway, Vietnam, last week reacted angrily to news of a Chinese military drill on June 19 in the Paracel Islands, which it regards as its own and calls the Hong Sa Archipelago.
Australia said Tuesday it will not be seeking to arm its submarines with nuclear weapons. Its foreign minister Penny Wong said following a meeting with Malaysian officials this afternoon. Wong, who is Malaysian-born, is currently on a working visit to the Southeast Asian nation that will end on Thursday. Let's watch this.
There are nuclear powers in this region, but Australia is not one of them. What we are doing is replacing an existing capability with a new capability, and that is nuclear-powered submarine. So, the propulsion system is powered by nuclear power, but we remain very clear that we do not seek, and nor would we ever seek to have any nuclear capability on our submarines. So that's the first promise, that Australia continues to be a reliable supplier, for example, of wheat and meat, at a time where global supply chains have been constrained. And obviously, as a comprehensive strategic partner, we will work with Malaysia, if required, on any issues they have in terms of their supply constraints arising out of...
And here in Thailand, the National Health Security Office, or NHSO, which has run the home isolation program for COVID-19 patients, has decided to shut the program. There are more details from Diomrel Baldo, our correspondent here in Bangkok, Thailand. Hello, Diomrel.
Yes, hello, Faye. That is correct. Thailand's National Health Security Office, or the NHSO, which has run the home isolation program for the COVID-19 patients with a total cost of more than 150 billion baht, pronounces the official shutting down of the program yesterday. This announcement is made by the department's Director General, Dr. Somsak Aksilip. Included in the proposed cancellation of the program is the scrapping off of the free distribution of rapid antigen test kits to members of the public via selected drugstores, noting that in accordance with the Medical Service Department's regulation, rapid antigen test kits will be administered only when a patient has delivered symptoms. However, officials from the concerned agency assured the general public that COVID-19 patients can still access hospitals for treatment in accordance with their entitlements, such as the Gold Card and the Standard Social Security Scheme, or the Health Security Scheme for government officials. In the updated rules, suspected infected people will be administered rapid antigen tests, and if the results are positive, they will be given medication. But if their condition is serious, they will be admitted for treatment. The home isolation program was introduced in 2021 when hospitals were so overwhelmed by COVID-19 patients that were not enough beds to accommodate them during the peak of the pandemic. Patients with mild symptoms were told to stay at home under the program, but the NHSO arranged for health officials to monitor their condition and to supply them with medication and other necessities. Meanwhile, Dr. Yong Puvurawan, the head of the Center of Excellence in Clinical Virology at the Department of Medicine of Chulalongkorn University, said on his Facebook post that the fatality of COVID-19 in Thailand is less than 0.1%, and most of those were over 60, pregnant women or those with underlying diseases, people who do not have received their vaccine booster shots. He suggested that everyone should receive at least 3 vaccine doses or they could receive the 4th or 5th doses depending on when they received the most recent dose. For statistics update from the COVID-19 Information Center, there were 14 fatalities, 2,695 new confirmed cases in the past 24 hours, with 4,034 cases of positive rapid antigen tests. From EBC, Thailand Bureau, this is Jomerl Bundadbaldo. Back to studio.
Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, envoy and Cambodian Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn hold talks with Myanmar's junta chief Min Aung Hlaing on Thursday in a 5-day visit partly aimed at kickstarting dialogue between the junta and opponents to its rule. A junta spokesman, however, said the regional envoy tasked with facilitating talks between Myanmar's junta and its opponents will not be allowed to meet Aung San Suu Kyi. The ASEAN has been seeking to implement a 5-point consensus it reached in Myanmar last year that called for dialogue among all concerned parties, provision of humanitarian assistance, an immediate cessation of violence, and a visit by a special envoy to meet all parties. Cambodia is the current chairman of the 10-nation grouping, which includes Myanmar. Myanmar's junta initially agreed to the consensus but has since made little effort to implement it. Its stonewalling led fellow ASEAN members, Brunei Darussalam, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam to block government leaders from attending major meetings of the regional bloc. A junta spokesman said on Tuesday that Prak Sokhonn would not be allowed to meet ousted government leader Aung San Suu Kyi during his 5-day visit. The Nobel Peace Prize laureate is being tried on multiple charges, including corruption, and was transferred last week to a custom-built solitary facility at a prison in the capital, Nai Pia Tau. Her supporters say the charges are politically motivated to discredit her and legitimize the military seizure of power.
And more of the updated news around ASEAN region after this short break.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. May lalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Ang sugat na sa kanila ay mag-uugnay ay siya ring sugat. Sa pag-ibig nila ay magpapatibay.
Hindi na yan sasakit. Ginamot ko na yan.
Doon ko napatunayan na ang mundo ay may araw nga. Simula nung ginamot mo ang uno ko, kinulong na kita sa puso ko. Ikaw nga ang araw ko. Paano ako mabubuhay kung mawawala ang araw?
Paano nga kapag ang araw ay binalot ng dilim para ilibing ang isang sugat na mas malalim? A Place in the Sun, ngayong linggo.
Panalo tayo pag together, walang talo pag together. Let's stand together sa Net 25.
Welcome back to the program. The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or PCCI, the country's largest business organization, is urging the new administration to continue policies and measures of the Anti-Red Tape Authority. And in a statement on Thursday, the PCCI President George Barcelon hoped the government would sustain the reforms of ARTA that were started during the Duterte administration. Barcelon said these initiatives of simplifying the transactions with public offices and efforts of eliminating red tape ensure sustained business confidence and trust in the government. He also added that the business community gives importance to eradicating red tape in the bureaucracy to gain confidence of local and foreign investors. The PCCI chief cited artist programs that help ease doing business and eliminate red tape. This include the national effort for the harmonization of efficiency measures of interrelated agencies program that aims to address over-regulations in sectors of logistics, telecommunication, housing, food and pharmaceutical, and energy. The joint memorandum circulars for building telecommunication towers, integrating the Food and Drug Administration's electronic license to operate and Center for Drug Regulation and Research into the Central Business Portal, establishing Green Lane for licenses and authorizations for pharmaceutical companies, and the Unified Rapid Pass that streamlines registration and fees in logistics sectors. Former President Rodrigo Duterte signed the Republic Act 11032, or the Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act, in 2018.
Former Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade vowed support for his successor, Jimmy Bautista, as the latter committed to continuing the big-ticket projects and policies of the department. In a statement on Thursday, Tugade called on government workers and officials under the DOTR to give the same, if not more, amount of support to President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., who took his oath of office Thursday. He said, I quote, "We shall extend the needed help and support we can give to the new administration, for their success is the success of the Filipino people." He thanked former President Duterte for trusting him with the DOTR for 6 years, his co-workers in the DOTR, and attached agencies and development partners. He also thanked the public for their support for the DOTR. As he and officials stepped down, he noted that he is still full of hope and enthusiasm to give Filipinos and an improved quality of life. At noon Thursday, Marcos took oath as the 17th President of the Philippines and has sworn in by Supreme Court Chief Justice Alexander Gesmundo at the National Museum in Manila.
And meanwhile, President Bongbong Marcos Jr. says his father built more roads and produce more rice than all of his predecessors combined. In comments made after he was sworn in as a Philippine president on Thursday, he also said that Philippines was once the fastest growing economy in the ASEAN region. Let's take a look.
I once knew a man who saw what little had been achieved since independence in a land of people with the greatest potential for achievement, and yet they were poor. But he got it done. Up the road that we must take to a place better than the one we lost in the pandemic. Gains made and lost, opportunities missed, well-laid plans superseded by the pandemic. Indeed, ours was the fastest growing economy in ASEAN by ways now outdated. We shall be again by a radical change in the way the world must now work to recover what we have lost in that fire and move on from there. And that I impose this obligation upon
The Philippine government on Tuesday expressed its strong objection to Taiwan's unlawful live-fire drills off the coast of Ligao Island, describing the move as an illegal activity that raises tensions and complicates the situation in the South China Sea. In a statement, the Department of Foreign Affairs said, I quote, "The Philippines expresses its strong objection over the unlawful live-fire drill to be conducted by Taiwan on 28 to 29th June 2022 within the vicinity of Ligao Island. Ligao Island is an integral part of the Kalayaan Island group over which the Philippines has sovereignty. According to the Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative, Taiwan took permanent possession of the feature in 1956.
And back here to Thailand. Here in Thailand, the scrambled F-16S after a Myanmar jet involved in clashes with anti-coup fighters violated its airspace. This is according to the official that was said on Thursday. As a regional envoy urging dialogue visits Yangon, fighting in eastern Myanmar has escalated since Putsch last year ousted a civilian government led by Aung San Suu Kyi, with thousands fleeing to Thailand to escape the violence, according to the United Nations. The conflict has sparked concern among Myanmar's neighbors, with a special envoy from regional bloc, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or the ASEAN, that has been beginning a visit on Wednesday to try to kickstart talks between the army and the opposition. Bangkok deployed 2 fighter planes after an unidentified aircraft crossed into Thailand in Tak province. Before disappearing from radar, the Royal Thai Air Force said in a statement. And Thailand's air attaché in Yangon has been asked to coordinate with related agencies in Myanmar to send a warning and find preventive measures in the future. And an official in Tak province told AFP that a few bullets had landed across the border in Thailand during fighting in Myanmar on Wednesday. And Myanmar's military has carried out airstrikes and artillery shelling during 5 days of fierce fighting in neighboring Kayin state. This is according to Major General So Nerdamya of the Karen National Defense Organization, and one of the number of armed groups resisting the country's security forces.
Stay tuned for more news. We'll be right back.
Sa bawat sumbong may responding katapat. hindi nagdadalawang isip na tumulong sino man ang nangangailangan. Matagal ng problema sa baha ng mga residente ng isang barangay sa May Kawayan, Bulacan, nirespondihan. Pagbabawal sa mga e-trike, pedicab at tricycle sa EDSA na nagresulta sa pambubugbog sa ilang MMDA enforcers, ating inimbestigahan.
Kami MMDA nagbibigay ng paalala at paano sa kanila na bawal ang e-trike doon sa kahabaan ng EDSA. Hindi naman kami na marahas na pumunta na para guluhin yung kanilang pamumuhay.
Pinoy Good Samaritan sa Japan na nagbalik ng pera sa nagkamaling nagpadala sa kanya, ating kilalanin.
Thank you ako. Tapos sabi ko, small world kasi Bulacan ka lang din pala.
At isang grupo ng mga volunteers na ang gawain, magtayo ng mga library sa iba't ibang komunidad sa bansa. Inyo pong makikilala sa ating e-responder.
Ako si Oliver ng Library of Philippines, Certified E-Responder.
Mapapanood nyo kami sa mga sumusunod na mga channels. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
₱1,000,000. Kapalit ng isang misyon.
Kunin mo ang flash drive at bibigyan kita ng ₱1,000,000.
Ipagpapalit ba ang karangalan para sa karangyaan?
Mas importante ba sa'yo ang pera kaysa sa buhay ng tao, ha? Isa kang bully! Manahimik ka nga dyan. Hindi! Ikaw, ginawa mong laruan ng isang disenteng lalaki. Dito sa bahay, di ka makabasag pinggan.
Pumasok ka na sa kwarto, wala ka na sa sarili.
Honey, hindi ka rin absuelto. Alam kong nagnakaw ka ng pera sa nakwan in 50 years ago, kaya naging mayaman ka na ngayon.
Tama na yan!
O ipagpapalit ang karangyaan para sa tunay na napupusuan? Sa huling 3 linggo ng Never Twice.
Manalo tayo pag together, walang talo pag together. Let's stand together sa Net 25.
And welcome back. Vietnam has banned swimming and scuba diving at a popular central tourist spot in an attempt to revive its damaged coral reef. And in a statement that was said, the ban was to evaluate the condition of sensitive area so that an appropriate plan to enact the sea conservation area could be made. This is effective from Monday. The ban would last until further notice. The communist nation boasts more than 3,200 kilometers of coastline. Coral reefs across Southeast Asia have been badly hit by global warming, and scientists are warning their degradation could have devastating environmental and economic knock-on effects. Around 60% of the coastal bed in the area was covered by living coral in 2020. But more recent findings showed that had shrunk to less than 50%. And previously, local authorities blamed the shrinking ecosystem in climate change. It noted that powerful storms in 2019 and 2021 had damaged the coral. They also blame illegal fishing, dredging, construction of industrial parks, and waste disposal. The UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has warned that 4.5 million people in Southeast Asia and the Indian Ocean region could be affected by damaged coral reefs. The reefs support about 25% of marine biodiversity.
The UN Secretary General has declared that the world is in the middle of an ocean emergency and urged governments to do more to restore ocean health. He set the tone on Monday for the 5-day meet by warning that the world's oceans are in deep crisis. Let's take a look.
When we see the Earth from space, we truly appreciate that we live on a blue planet. The ocean connects us all. Sadly, we have taken the ocean for granted, and today we face what I would call an ocean emergency. We must turn the tide. We cannot have a healthy planet without a healthy ocean. Our failure to care for the ocean will have ripple effects across the entire 2030 agenda. The ocean produces more than half of the oxygen we breathe. It is the main source of sustenance for more than 1 billion people. And industries relating to the ocean employ some 40 million people, and a healthy and productive ocean is vital to our shared future. Our oceans are issuing an SOS. They are struggling, heating, and acidifying. Corals are dying. Coastal ecosystems such as mangroves, seagrasses, and wetlands are being degraded. Fisheries are being depleted, and the ocean is choking in plastic waste. We must work together to right these wrongs.
The world is literally, it's dumpster fires every day that we're trying to put out, and this is the most important. It's our world. While everything is important, it's like if we don't do something now, it makes them change and stop people from just talking and actually doing action, because the truth of it is, it's with the next generation. It is with my babies and your babies and the grandchildren coming. It's like they're the ones that we're doing it for, and for the generation that doesn't get it, are too stubborn and old, don't want to make that change, the next generation has to do it.
A so-called High Ambition Coalition, meanwhile, backing a proposal to set aside 30% of the planet's land and ocean surface by 2030 as protected areas, grew to 100 nations. UK Minister of State Zach Goldsmith announced in a side event. Currently, less than 10% of global ocean are protected. The 30 times 30 plan could be the cornerstone of a treaty slated for completion at a UN Biodiversity Summit to be held in December in Montreal. The United States, European Union nations, Mexico, Canada, Japan, and India have joined the 30 times 30 drive, while China, Russia, Indonesia, and Brazil have yet to do so.
And the United States said on Monday it would step up cooperation with Vietnam and Taiwan, among others, to combat illegal fishing. This is a problem that environmentalists and Western nations increasingly attribute to China. And as a major UN conference opened in Portugal on restoring the planet's ailing oceans, US President Joe Biden signed a memorandum that aimed to step up coordination and enforcement within the US government against illegal fishing and the use of forced labor. And according to the statement, the US will work with Vietnam, Ecuador, Panama, Senegal, and Taiwan to combat illegal and unreported and unregulated fishing, referred to as IU, which is equal to U in environmental terminology. Vietnam also has intense maritime disputes with Beijing, which claims large stretches of the South China Sea and has sought to enforce its own fishing rules. And a recent report by the Environmental Justice Foundation said that China by far has the world's largest fleet that is capable of fishing in distant waters, and that there have been frequent complaints of abuse. And the lawmakers have long pushed for the Biden administration to take action against IUU, calling it a matter of national security and the economy.
The warmth of the long-standing relationship between the Philippines and Japan has once again been highlighted in the Department of Education's third PH Japan Friendship Art Contest, where Japanese philanthropist Kenji Mori found himself in tears of delight. In the hybrid event live streamed on Facebook, Mori expressed how impressed he was with all the masterpiece done, as well as the warm gesture of the education sector as it played the Japanese national anthem. Let's take a look.
My message, I was so impressed because you kindly sing our national anthem. We never expected. We educated, never forget what would happen during World War II. So we were so impressed. Maraming salamat, mabuhay. Then, this is my main speech. I declare the third National Art Contest opening.
Mori, meanwhile, said he hopes the next administration would continue holding up the solid friendship the two nations have. He also said he's willing to pursue these activities for Filipino learners. There are 46 entries from all the regions nationwide, which the learners made under the theme Dakilang Lahi, and Mori ensured no learner is going home with nothing. DepEd Undersecretary Diosdado San Antonio said Mori is undeniably an exemplar of someone transforming youngsters or Filipino learners to passionate lovers of the country through these activities.
And that's the latest news around ASEAN region. Thank you for watching. Once again, this is Faye Parta from your EBC Thailand Bureau.
And this is Celia Pablo. We live in interesting times.
Thank you for watching. See you next week.